welcome to another episode of Thinking Like a Bank, where we show you how to think like a bank by applying the same strategies and principles that banks use to help you find more financial freedom in your life. I'm your host, Sari Ibrahim. Today, I'm interviewing Steve Hoffman. He's the CEO of Founderspace. He's also a venture investor, serial entrepreneur, and author of several award-winning books. These include Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The Five Forces. Founderspace is one of the leading startup accelerators in the world with over 50 partners in 22 countries. Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazines ranked Founderspace the #1 incubator for overseas startups. Steve, welcome to our podcast.
Great to be here, Siri.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm excited to interview you and get to know you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and what you do?
Sure, I do a lot of things. So I am a venture investor. I invest in early stage startups. I run Founderspace, which is a global startup accelerator and incubator. We work all over the world. We have over 50 partners in 22 countries. And I'm an author. I've written 3 books on startups and innovation. So I am completely immersed in this space.
I could tell. So I want to kind of break down each one by one. So venture investor, is that the same thing as like a partner in a business, essentially?
Yeah. So what a venture investor does. So I look for early stage startups that have high growth potential. And then I will decide if they meet my criteria to make an investment. So the early stage startups tend to be, because I'm located in Silicon Valley, they tend to be tech startups, but not always. You know, we're open to other types of startups. The fundamental thing that they all have in common is that they are positioned to grow extremely rapidly, not linearly like a normal business, but exponentially.
I think it's like the difference between like starting like an app, like a mobile app or some sort of technology versus like a restaurant, right? Like a restaurant's not going to go from 10,000 this year to 5 billion next year, but software definitely could.
It could. Right. So most restaurants won't. If you have an incredible franchise, you can get exponential growth if you hit everything right. But yes, most single restaurants will not do it. Even a chain won't do it.
Got it. That makes sense. And then startup. So like, can you define that? So what is a startup exactly?
So a startup can be anybody who launches a business, right? Who's an entrepreneur who launches a business. But when I say startup, what I mean specifically are companies that have a couple of things in common. First of all, they tend to be innovating. So they are looking for opportunities where they can insert themselves and completely change the game. And most of them do this through technology. They actually take an emerging technology, a new technology, and they use that to give themselves a competitive advantage, to grow really quickly, and to build moats around their business so competitors can't get in. These are the ideal businesses. You can also do it like Lululemon was essentially a startup. You know, they were a small company, an entrepreneur, but instead of using technology, they literally defined a trend. So the yoga trend was just starting to happen, and they jumped in there at just the right time, and that propelled them to exponential growth and an IPO. So it doesn't have to be technology that you're using, but you have to have something special about your company that is going to separate you from all the other competitors out there. Because if you are doing everything just like a competitor, you cannot achieve exponential growth. The best you can do is linear, slow growth, because they're all undercutting you on prices. The only way you get exponential growth is when there isn't that intense price competition, where you aren't having to lower your prices, and you could take that profit and funnel it back into the business.
And is this consistent with like the blue ocean strategy, where it's like instead of
so we're looking for blue ocean companies, not red ocean companies. That's what every investor is looking for. And on top of that, we are looking for blue ocean companies that will turn into pseudo monopolies. I say pseudo, they could be a real monopoly, but a lot of times there is competition, but they are in such a dominant position that they really monopolize the market. And they do this through all sorts of means. You can do it through brand recognition, like Lululemon. I said they got in earlier in the yoga, they defined themselves, they sort of own that category, right? Tesla's facing competition now, but Tesla is the leader in their market. And they have all this unique technology that they're employing throughout the whole supply chain, from the battery development through the cars, through the self-driving, they're trying to build a moat around their business that separates them from the competition. Whether they succeed or not, we'll see. But that's why their valuation is so high.
Mm-hmm.
So with different companies, it's different things. Like with Facebook, it's the network effect. Literally, you're getting all these users in there. It's very hard for any other incumbent social network to gain traction when all their friends are on one platform like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. New ones do break through when they're doing something different, like TikTok broke through because they came at video in a totally different way and offered a totally different value proposition, and people just flocked to it. So there's always openings for new ones, but they're different. TikTok is a very different beast than Facebook. And Snapchat again is different. So this is what we'll see. We're looking for unique propositions where they can build that market and grow. The other one is two-sided marketplaces. That's another defensive moat that we like to see in building a pseudo monopoly. So you look at Amazon, for example. Amazon is a two-sided marketplace. That means they brought together the buyers and the sellers. And getting a critical mass of either buyers or sellers is really hard to do. And once you get them both in one place, other incumbents, they just can't match you, right? They can't attract the sellers because you don't have enough buyers, and they can't attract the buyers because you don't have enough sellers, these incumbents that are trying to eat away at Amazon's business. So they're going to have to if they're trying to do something similar to Amazon, it's almost a losing proposition. They have to go out and forge new territory in a new way of buying and selling in order to compete, because they're offering a different value prop.
And then another example of two-sided marketplace could also be like Uber, right? They get the drivers on one side, and then they have the customers.
Yeah. Again, that's what gives Uber its defensibility. That's why Uber is crushing Lyft. Why is Uber crushing Lyft right now? Because simply they have more drivers and more customers. And the more drivers and more customers they get, the more people come to them because, well, I can get the car sooner and blah, blah, blah. And then they can discount prices and everything else.
And I've heard they're also tapping into different areas. Like they're also renting cars out. They have like health insurance benefits. So they're tapping into different verticals for their drivers and for their customers, right?
And that's a different thing. That's, a lot of companies expand laterally as they grow. So first they focus on their core business like Uber did. And then they start thinking, how can we get more revenue out of these customers? Like, we already own these customers. Can we make more money from them? So they start to look at other businesses that can supplement with their core businesses. So they did that with Uber Eats, right? They said, oh, we have all these drivers and we have all these customers. Let's sell them food. And now they're looking at every other possibility because they need to grow their revenue. Every business does. It doesn't matter whether it's Apple or Amazon or whatever. They're always looking. Amazon was like, oh, we have this incredible marketplace, and hey, we built out unique technology for hosting stuff and scaling it in the cloud. What if we offered this to people? Boom, they had a whole new business there. So really smart businesses are constantly innovating. I write about this a lot in one of my books, Make Elephants Fly. It's all about this process of innovation. The elephant is your big dream, your idea. How do you get it off the ground? What process do these big companies as well as entrepreneurs go through in order to actually make progress in innovating?
Got it. And then you mentioned when we started recording, like incubator and accelerator. Do you mind defining what each one means?
Yeah, sure. So, founder space, I called an incubator and accelerator because we do a little of both, but we're actually more of an accelerator. And an accelerator is when you take an existing company with a team and a product that is either developed or being developed or already live on the market and they're selling, and you help them go faster. And how we help them go faster is we go deep. We bring them into founder space. We go deep on their business, like tweaking their business model, everything, because we look at hundreds of startups. So we're like, how can we help you do something very unique that nobody else is doing? Make sure you're the winner. And then we introduce them to venture capital. So we help them raise the amounts of money they need to actually dominate their market. So when we feel they have something very unique and they're going to dominate, that's an accelerator. An incubator is an earlier stage. It's typically when the incubator a lot of times comes up with the idea themselves and actually spins it out of the incubator. Like Idea Lab is very famous for doing that. A lot of incubators, they'll bring in entrepreneurs who are just at the idea stage and really nurture them and help them. They take a much larger equity stake in these companies because the risk is much higher. And then they help them grow from there.
What are some examples? I know it's probably a general question, but like on average, like what could one see like from an equity side, like of working with an accelerator and then like sharing the equity with the accelerator?
It's all over the map.
Okay.
So I know, and then there's startup studios, which is the third one. And a startup studio is a company that, again, comes up with ideas and spins them off into companies just at the very early idea stage. All three of these type of entities, like I would say, incubators, like if somebody just comes to you with an idea or your startup studio, you could take 50% or higher ownership in these companies. So it can be very significant. Accelerators are usually 20% or less. So because they already have a mature business, a lot of times, they'll take 10% or 5%. It really depends. Some of it depends on how much are you investing, right? Are you investing anything? Are you investing your time? Are you investing money? What are you doing for the startup? The more you do for them, the more capital you put in, and the bigger your brand, the more equity you can usually justify.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And then with the Excel, is it like and correct me if I'm wrong, but is it like a fee that one pays to the accelerator, like a membership fee on a monthly basis, and then that helps them get to the point of raising VC funds?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. There's incubators, accelerators, startup studios, and co-working spaces,
Yeah.
like literally spaces you go to work in. And a co-working space doesn't really provide you with a lot of mentoring, a lot of guidance, a lot of, they have some events and stuff, but they don't really go deep on your business and help you get funded. But you rent office space. That's the simplest, like a WeWork of the world. If you join an accelerator, some accelerators charge fees, some don't charge fees. Some take a lot of equity, some take a little equity. Some invest in you, some don't invest in you. There's no set rule, like I said,
Okay.
for accelerator. It's all what you really want to understand is what value are they providing to you? Is this enough to justify the equity they're asking for? Is this accelerator really well connected? Do they have they worked with lots of startups? Do they have deep venture relationships? What's the chance of them actually getting you funded? What are your goals? Can the accelerator actually deliver upon these? You should, like, if you're looking at an accelerator, I have one rule. Talk to other people who've been through the accelerator, and don't talk to people that the accelerator recommends you talk to. Those are the happy ones, right? Like if they say talk to this startup, they're only going to point you to the happy ones. You actually need to dig deep and find out people who have worked with them. They have their logo somewhere on their thing, but they didn't recommend you. They weren't recommended by the accelerator, and interview them, and that will give you a really good idea of did they deliver on their promise.
That makes a lot of sense because it's going to be hard for everybody to have positive feedback, but you still want to know like how their experience went. And then you're right, like you could pay, for example, let's just say $1,000 a month for a membership fee, and then that's not necessarily going to guarantee you to get to VC funding. Like you want to make sure that accelerates. Yeah.
Right. So what are they really giving you? You need to understand that. I tell most startups, start by going into a co-working space with a lot of other startups. Mingle with the startups, network with the startups, go to all the networking events you can, go to all the pitch events you can, start talking to other startups, and you'll find startups that have been through various accelerators and ask them, what was your experience? Did it really help you? Was it worth the money? And so hold on to your money and start doing your homework because you can get into a great co-working space in your city, wherever you are, for not that much money, right? You're just paying for a desk. It can sometimes cost you a couple $100 if you get a flex desk, right? And you just go in there a few days a week and network with everybody and go to all the events and really network with other founders. You will learn so much that when you come to make that big decision of what accelerator to join, you will have a much better idea of whether it's worth it.
Yeah, I definitely see that because you never know who you're networking with, right? Like you have no idea, like you can run into literally anybody next to you in a co-working space or in one of these networking events. So it definitely helps. I definitely see that,
You
like
can
networking.
never do enough networking early on. Like No, honestly, it's going to make a huge difference, especially when you're making big decisions. Like,
Mhm.
who should I take venture capital from? You can learn from them. You can exchange ideas. You can even introduce each other to investors. I said your best source of introduction to investors is usually other startup founders.
Yeah.
They may have pitched investors and the investor passed on their business. They didn't invest. Well, they know that person, though. They could introduce you and you could help them and reciprocate. And it's really, it's a great way. And you learn like how to grow your business, all these different things.
I see that. That definitely makes sense. I want to talk more about your book. So I see that you have three of them: Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and the Five Forces. So if I read all three of your books, like what could I learn from reading those books?
So, Make Elephants Fly is all about the process of radical innovation. By radical innovation, I mean it's not incremental. You're not just making your business a little better every time you innovate. You are totally changing the paradigm. You are innovating in a way that will allow you to produce extremely rapid growth. Surviving a Startup is exactly what the title says. It's published by HarperCollins. It's out everywhere. And it is all about how you grow a startup. Everything, I literally, after 20 years of doing this, I ran 3 venture funded companies of my own. I've worked with hundreds of startups. I bootstrapped 2 businesses. I put like every piece of advice and everything I learned into this book. So it's like super dense, like with really practical things that startups need to get to the next level. And then the 5 forces is about new technologies, emerging technologies that are poised to completely change all of our lives in every business on the planet. And I go very deep into technologies like artificial intelligence, like what we're seeing right now
Yeah.
with GPT and all these, and Midjourney and Stability AI and all these companies, like totally changing the face of what AI. I wrote about that in the book. Like I saw all of that coming. It's in there. I literally said, every image we create, all the music we create, all, text, it will all be written by AI, created by AI. We are literally seeing that happen right now. But I go even further. So the book goes deep into ideas like brain-computer interfaces. What happens when we directly connect our brain to the internet? Where does that take us? The future of virtual and augmented reality. What happens? Will virtual and augmented reality work? How will it work? And what will it do to change our behaviors and disrupt businesses? And then I go into nanotech. I go into gene editing, CRISPR technology. I'm a geek. I love this stuff. Like, literally genetics, like gene editing right now, is poised to radically transform this planet because we have uncovered the source code to life, literally the source code
Wow.
to life on this planet, human life, plant life, animal life. We can now make in the lab new species of plants and animals that literally never existed before. And so we're like gods. Like we are like gods. And we're just at the beginning. The CRISPR gene editing technology around now is literally just the beginning of what's possible with gene editing. And we are going to see human beings. We're already having gene therapies for curing cancer, for curing blindness. They can cure congenital blindness with gene editing, like in kids, so that they don't become blind as they age.
Wow.
It's absolutely amazing. At the University of Florida, they have gene edited cattle, literally cattle, to make them survive higher temperatures. Why? Climate change, right? There's a company now that is actually a startup called Aqua Bounty that has released gene edited salmon that grow twice as fast. So you can imagine if you run a salmon farm and somebody says, "Oh, I can gene edit those salmon," so literally you can produce twice as much in the same amount of time.
Wow.
You would like, that's a huge amount of money to you.
Yeah.
So we are, eventually we will live in a world, not even by choice, but by necessity because of climate change, where literally all the foods we eat will be somewhat gene edited. It'll just be a fact of life. Like, I know a lot of people are opposed to this, but the way climate change is going, we're going to actually need this technology to feed the world's population. So all this technology is coming, and it's absolutely amazing. I write about space travel. So really, they're different. There's 5 chapters in the book, and I go through the 5 main, that's why it's called the 5 forces, where I go through the 5 main technological forces that are transforming the world and what they'll do for us.
And then how do you think that's going to affect jobs? Like if everything is, for example, a lot of things are becoming more automated and there's more technology coming into place. What do you think will happen to jobs and people?
Well, in the short term, nothing. And I say it in the book, like, look, we're going to need these robots because our societies, especially the highly industrialized societies, are aging. Look at Japan.
Yeah.
They literally don't have enough young people to fill all the jobs. Look at the US. We have inflation because we don't have enough people who want to do the service jobs and all
Yeah.
these other jobs that need to be done, going out in the fields and picking crops and stuff. We need robots. So in the short term, robots aren't going to replace jobs. They're going to supplement us. They're also going to make all of us more productive. They're going to make the products we produce better, the services we produce better, going to make our quality of life better. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
In the long run, AI will take over people's jobs because there is no job that I can possibly imagine that a robot with really good AI cannot do better than a human being at some point in the future.
Really?
So there's none.
What about like being an attorney or a surgeon or
cakewalk? Those are cakewalk ones. Attorney's really easy. Look at ChatGPT, which is very crude,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It can already write up legal docs. Like it spans a million, and it can write. They might not be perfect yet, but it's just a matter of time before you just say, hey, I want you to write this contract for this, and this. Here are the terms. Boom, it's done. You don't need an attorney. Surgeons, they already have robot surgeons. Da Vinci, I write about this in the book. Da Vinci is a robot surgeon, right? And now it's used with doctors because people still want a human in the loop.
Yeah.
But these robots are just going to get better. Like, doctors, they come in, they're tired, they didn't sleep well, they may have a cold, or they may have drunk a lot or partied the night before, and they're operating on you. A robot's going to do, like, once a robot figures it out, it's going to do the same job perfect every time, right?
Yeah, no human errors.
No human, and they'll have a human on standby if there's some emergency, right?
Yeah.
But you will need a lot less surgeons when you only need the humans on standby or for very particular operations. There is no job. And we've already seen, like, I don't know if you've been playing around with Dolly or Midjourney or Stability AI to create graphics. Like,
not yet, but I heard of these. Yeah.
They're mind-blowing. Like, the quality of the artwork they create is like, if you had to hire an artist, they'd have to spend a week or weeks making this artwork to get the quality. And you could do it by literally typing in some words.
I could see, like, about the professionals and like replacing like doctors and lawyers. I could see a lot of like legal battles happening, like politicians writing laws that say like it must be a human or something like that along those lines to protect like people's jobs. But I think that's only going to last for a certain amount of time. Eventually,
it won't last, because think about it. If we write all those laws to protect our workers,
yeah,
but other countries don't, their cost of producing goods will be so much, and services will be so much lower than us. We will not be able to compete. Our economy will crash.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
In order to remain competitive in the future world, you cannot limit the technology. What it will do is totally change the nature of work in society. There will be a time in the future when you will look back and people talk about, can you believe humans worked? Like, that's so odd. Like, that must have been a real drag. Like, you actually had to go to work. Like, who would want to do that? What humans will do is we will play. And we will play. Like, think about, I don't know if you're a gamer. I'm a big time gamer, think about how games create a whole world and a whole structure, and you feel all the same things you do out of succeeding on your job, when all that sense of accomplishment and pride and that status symbol within a game, and how much people crave that. Right now, we attribute most of that to our work if we have an interesting job. If not, it's just a grind, But in the future, we will be playing. We will be in really immersive virtual worlds and physical worlds that are blended with virtual, where literally our status and all the work we put into work, we will put into play. All the energy, the time, the thought, the passion, everything. And we will care about our play more than because work just gets done. Like, products get made, services get done. No. This is what matters, right? Our interaction with other people and these systems that we will be creating, these super advanced systems, that will be our future. Whether you like it or not, I'm telling you, that's where it's going. And governments will be literally responsible for literally supporting the population because, very few, really what happens when all production is done through machines, right? You have to have a way of distributing wealth beyond a very narrow set of people who own those machines. And so the legislation that will be written won't be to stymie the machines, it'll be to more evenly distribute wealth.
Wow. I'm excited to see what the future is going to be
So
like.
instead of a worker's paradise,
Yeah.
like Marx envisioned, it will be a player's paradise.
Yeah.
We will be entering the player's paradise of the future.
That's awesome. So it was a pleasure interviewing you and getting to know you and what you're doing. How can listeners connect with you and learn more about you?
Okay, you want to connect with me? Go to foundersspace.com, Founderspace. You can go there, hit the contact form, put my name in it. The email will get to me. I also have tons of other videos. All my books are there. You can, get them. The 5 Forces That Change Everything, all the books. And, I love to hear from people, especially entrepreneurs. So you can, if you have a business plan, you can submit it to us for funding or our accelerator. We're always interested. If we love it, we'll get back to you.
Awesome. Okay, founderspace.com. Okay, perfect. It was nice getting to know you, Steve. I'm looking forward to bringing you back on the podcast.
Thank you, Siri. Wonderful being here.
To learn more about what we do and how we can help you grow more wealth, please visit www.finassetprotection.com. That's FIN assetprotection.com. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.